Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrets It, Brexit Britain, a country who decided it was going to go skydiving in the night over a forest. Look, I'm just going to give you a bit of advice. When you go skydiving, try and do it in the day over open land. Don't come down where there's trees. It's crazy. And also, welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages you sent me. And a special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that have signed up. So thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all your messages for definite. So we're into the second Monday of the new year, 2022. And I don't know if you've seen this story yet of Elizabeth Holmes. Right. You know, Elizabeth Holmes was like, she was running a company, I believe it's called Theranos. Nice name. Right. She was basically had a little black box, right, that you could just get one drop of your blood, right, and this machine will tell you, right, if you're going to suffer from, if you're going to get cancer in the future, if you're going to get diabetes, it can give you a full MOT for your future. Right, so obviously a lot of people was really interested in this, and you know, this lady, she started her business at 19 years old after she dropped out of Stanford University, right? So she was and you know, but the donations, well, I'd say the donations, the people buying shares in her company. I mean, Rupert Murdoch bought $125 million worth of shares in this woman's company. Do you know what I mean? So as you can tell, you know, she was getting, you know, I've seen interviews with her and Joe Biden, right? With her and Clinton, right? You know, if you see how much people was pushing this woman, pushing her, saying, "Oh my God, she's the new goddess," right? And you know, she just done the whole Steve Jobs thing, yeah, with the black turtleneck, the power dressing. Right? Because you know already, right? When you won't go and get that power dressing, you're dressing all black. Right, that gives you the power dressing, right? And she just adopted that, right? And somewhere along the line, yeah, someone must have taken out this woman's lady parts in her neck, right? Because this woman's got a voice deeper than Jeffrey Cox. If you listen to this woman's voice, right, her voice is so deep, right? So this woman, and her ex-boyfriend, which is her business partner, I believe, them two, yeah, have literally fooled the world. Right, because this little black box did not work. Right, it was giving people all the wrong information. Right, when people went and got the you know, you had people going and getting like they had the Theranos check, right, and then a few days later they'd have a proper blood test. Right, but obviously that, because the Theranos, yeah, is like it's like nano, right, so that's really small, so it's just a drop. Right. Whereas if you want, you know, if they want to test your blood, they normally they stick a big massive needle in your arm, right, and take out and draw enough blood for you to nearly faint, right? But with her solution, it was just a small amount, just a couple of drops of your blood. That's all it is. So it's just a finger prick, basically. Right. So yeah. So you know. So she when I say she has fooled the world, and her box did not work, right? And now, right, she's just been convicted. I think last week she's just been convicted, right? And she's facing the next 20 years in prison. But you know, during the whole scenario, yeah, she went and got herself up the duff, right? So I think she's pregnant at the moment, right? So you know, but she's just been found guilty, right? Of you know, of basically, you know, obviously it's a fraud, isn't it? So, you know, we're going to see what happens to her, but I don't know what's going to happen to her. But you know, she was Silicon Valley's first woman billionaire. Do you know what I mean? So she was holding that curtain back and opening it up, right, and letting the women come through to say, you know what, yeah, we can do this shit just the same. You know what I'm saying? So. And so we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. And I don't know if you've seen what's happened in New York, in this Bronx building. Do you know what I mean? You know, a massive fire. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's like sort of Grenfell-esque. yeah, what's happened over there. Do you know what I mean? You know, so far we've got like 9 children dead and 10 adults, so 19 people dead so far. I've heard that people was jumping out of windows and all this type of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Right. But you see, this is the thing, right? Is that these governments, right, are the people who allow these type of things to happen. Right? Because remember, these people, they don't care about the poor and the working classes. Right? That's why you can have Grenfell Tower, and that's why you can have this building now in New York. Because it's the same thing. It's the same, you know, the same type of governments. You know, because remember, what you got to understand, right, is, you know, between the, you know, the Democrats and the Republicans and Labour and the Tories, right, they're all the same. They're all the same. Right? They're all the same. Virtually all the same people. Right? Because all of these political parties, right, have been taken over, right, by your upper classes. So whether they pretend that they're Labour or they pretend that they're Democrats, right, they're virtually the same as the Tories or the Republicans. Do you know what I mean? When it comes down to when it actually comes down to the people that are actually running the parties themselves. Right. This is why people can be burnt alive in these fucking buildings, right? And these people don't give a fuck, right? Because now, obviously, over here, right, they're talking about, you know, Grenfell, 4 billion, right, a £4 billion fund or whatever of taxpayers' money, right, is going to go into the whole cladding. Into the whole cladding thing. Now, you know, from the government, right? They're just going to take that £4 billion and just give it to companies who, you know, who they like, you know, who have been run by people who they, you know, who their friends, their family, their, you know, their donators. You know, you'll literally have, yeah, people that are Tory donators, yeah, starting up companies that just purely there to start taking down. Cladding, because once the money starts coming through, that's when these people do. Oh, they rear their head. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, we could just start a company overnight, right? Because it's not going to take much for them to just say, yeah, boom, right? And then they just take, you know, there's whatever money they do, and then they can just go to a company who actually specialise in that type of stuff and pay them to do it. Because that's how these guys work. Look how much of them set up, you know, when it comes down to the coronavirus. Look how much of them set up companies all around. Do you know what I mean? All around. I mean, to start selling PPE, start selling face masks, and all this type of thing. Look how much of them done that. Right? So when this money comes through for the Grenfell, right? You can sure bloody that's what's going to happen. But you know, they should make sure that the developers. Right, the developers are the people who have to pay for this, because you know they should say to the developers, oh, listen, you know what, right? What we're going to do, right, is you have to have it, you, right, as the person who has built this building, right, you have to have an insurance policy on this building for, say, if we say for the next 25 years, right, just to make sure, because if anything, right, that's out of the control of the tenants happen in that building. Right, then you need to pay for it. Right. The tenants shouldn't be made to pay for, you know, because the building hasn't been built, yeah, with adequate fire protection. That's not the tenant's business. It's not their fault. They've got nothing to do with it. Right? They wasn't in the room when the designs of the building was going up. So what's it got to do with them? Got nothing to do with them. Right, so this is what government. If governments really cared about its poor and its working classes, this is the type of stuff it would do. Is make sure that those people are properly looked after. It would make sure, right? You know, they could just go around and just fit, you know, and fit fire escapes on all these buildings, on the outsides of all these buildings. They could just do that. They could do that. They could right, set that up as a new apprentice scheme, government apprentice scheme, right? So they keep in full control of it, but they wouldn't do that anyway. They'll just say, oh no, well, we'll give it to these companies, because these companies can run this shit better than we can. But of course they can, because all them government ministers and the MPs, the majority of them are incompetent. That's the reason why companies can run shit better than them, because of their lack of competence. Right, so you know, that's how they should do it. Right, to make sure the insurance company, you know, to make sure that the people who's put that building up, right, you know, say for 25 years, you pay an insurance to make sure that if something comes up, like cladding needs to be taken off the building because you decided in the first place you wanted to save yourself a couple of pounds, right, and put cladding on a building, right, that can catch on fire, right? Well, you have to pay to remove that, right? And if you've got an insurance policy, then that's what that goes. Then that can go for that. But that's not how these guys think. They don't think about. They're not thinking about about the working class or the poor. They'll put you in a building where you can get burnt the fuck up, and they don't give a fuck. Look how long ago Grenfell was, right? And it's only just this weekend that they've announced, there's a £4 billion fund, right, to remove this cladding, and they're going to get the developers to throw money in to remove these buildings, to remove this cladding. Right? This is the type of nonsense bullshit, right? That these people, all of them. As I said, right? It's not just the Tories, right? Labour are much the same. Well, Labour under like your Tony Blair or your Keir Starmer is much the same. That's they're just following that path. That's what they're doing. They're just following that path, right? This morning, right? I heard I was watching GMB, right? And to my surprise, they announced that Will Smith had got a Golden Globe for King Richard, right? And that's not King. It's not a black guy playing a white guy king. It's King Richard. He was like the Williams sisters' dad. So it's a story about the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus. Okay, right. So yeah, so I was like, and then I was thinking to myself, why am I so shocked? And then it just dawned on me, it's because he's a black guy getting a Golden Globe. And I thought, wow, that's right. That's sort of shocking, isn't it? Really? Do you know what I mean? That I'm surprised about that, right? But they was shaken up in it. I think last year or the year before, because there was like something like 87 members of them, and not one of them was a person of colour. Or do you know what I mean? You think to yourself, really? You've got that much people giving out these awards, and there wasn't. They were very, very rarely given out to any black or Asian actors. Do you know what I mean? Or any people of colour. Just very, very rarely, right? Because obviously, Sidney Poitier died the other day, right? But that in the heat of the night, right, which he played. I think his name was Virgil something in it. I can't remember. I think so, right? But he played the starring role, right? And in the heat of the night, I think it was given Golden Globes, Oscars, and all the other actors around him all got stuff, and the program, because it was a film, and I think it was a series as well, right? So they all got awards and all that. Sidney Poitier got nothing. And in the same way, that he played in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, right? And all the other actors around him, right, that played in that film was given Oscars and Golden Globes and all these type of things, right? And Sidney Poitier was given nothing, even though he played the starring role, right? I think, seriously, yeah, that's how it was going on. Do you know what I mean? So I was kind of shocked to see that. Do you know what I mean? I was really shocked. And then we've got like Novak Djokovic. The Australian government have, they've made themselves look just like pathetic, just as pathetic, right, as our Brexit government. These people could be the same. These people could be one side of the same backside, right? These people, seriously, because you have to say the level of stupidity. Oh, because in the last hour, he's just been given his he's just been granted his appeal. So he's won his appeal, right? So now he can go and play tennis, right? They had to take him out. They said get him out of that place in 30 minutes. That's what the judge said. Right, get him out, right? Because Novak, right, has been locked up, right, in that I don't know if some people might call it a detention centre. Some people call it a COVID hotel, right? But whatever the case, he's not allowed out. Whatever the case is, right? And he's got the same size room as I would have, which would be small, the smallest they could possibly find. Right, so that's what right, and he's been asking for a lot of stuff as well, and from what I've heard, they've just said like request denied, right? But this morning, well, I don't know, were they 12 hours ahead of us or something? So yeah, so over in Australia anyway, right? He's been allowed. His appeal has gone through, right? Which is just ridiculous in the first place. But Novak has got some really weird ideas though, right? But, right, I ain't gonna go against with anything, right? If Novak says that just by thought alone, right, he can change. I think it was the pattern of water, something about water. By the thought alone, he can do something in water just by thinking. Right now, when it comes to tennis, the man is certainly a god, right? Because he's an absolute. He is the best tennis player on the planet at the moment. Do you know what I mean? I've never seen a player as good as Novak. Do you know what I mean? He's absolutely brilliant. He's a fantastic, right, tennis player. Right, absolutely, just incredible, right? Just real class. And then you had Nadal who's saying, well, Nadal saying no, they shouldn't allow him in. I'm looking at Nadal and thinking to myself, yeah, only because you know that you got a slight chance in winning if he's not there, right? And then you've got the other one, the Australian guy Nick Kyrgios saying, well, if Novak, if I'm put against Novak, then I'm not playing. Yeah, only because you're going to beat your ass. That's the reason why That's the reason why you said that you wouldn't want to play, because you're going to beat your ass, right? And I think that he's going to. I think that his first few games, I think he's going to get booed. He's going to get booed really badly in his first few games. You know what I mean? But then, I think Novak plays a lot better under pressure. I think he's probably that type of person. Do you know what I mean? That just like under pressure, he's just going to be like he's going to be even more devastating. So he's been allowed in. Right, and Novak he's a vegetarian. Right? Now I would think for someone who's got that much strength and that much endurance, you'd have to eat the whole cow, not what the cow eats. Right? But he's a vegetarian. Really? Wow. I never knew vegetarians could be that strong with that level of endurance as well. Because he's got some endurance level. That's the thing with him. Do you know what I mean? Right? He's the only people who have probably got more strength and endurance than him is like you'd be looking at like your power lifters and those type of people. Do you know what I mean? And those other athletes that do the what's the one what you call it, where they do the swimming, the running, and the cycling, right? That type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like the Brownlee brothers, right? Right? Because you look at them too and you think, oh, two slim chaps, but I'll tell you something, you wouldn't want to go up against them in anything. Let me tell you that, right? Because these guys, right? The level of strength that they pull out of their bodies is unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? And the endurance is unbelievable, yeah. So I wish Novak well. Because I think he was obviously given the wrong information, right, with regards to the whole visa for the whole COVID situation getting into Australia, because of he says, well, they're saying that he had COVID in December, right, which means that you can't. I think you can't get vaccinated for 6 months anyway. I think he's probably an anti-vaxxer, and that's another thing. The anti-vaxxers now are going to put him up as a poster boy, isn't it? They're going to hold him up as a poster boy. Do you know what I mean? Because especially as he's managed to get himself into Australia as well, right? So they're going to hold him up as a poster boy. Do you know what I mean? Right. So because he's had it in the last 6 months, he's had COVID, right? So he can't get vaccinated under those circumstances anyway, right? So that's where the confusion has been, and I believe that he's put in paperwork from his doctor and from a scientist, right? Probably from Serbia, right? And this in Serbia. I mean, do you realise how much of a big story this is in Serbia? I mean, this is the biggest story to hit Serbia, right? I think probably since the war, right? That they had there. Do you know what I mean? The Serbian president or prime minister has been getting involved, right, and calling the Australian prime minister out. You know what I mean, right? So, right, you know, and they've been having press conferences in Serbia about this. Right now, could you imagine, yeah, that if that happened to Andy Murray, you think there'd be any press conferences over here? There might be a press conference when Andy comes back, right? But you know, just you know, the level of the story in Serbia is just like, you know, this is the biggest thing that's happened over there. But then, you know, I think Novak is probably the most famous Serb ever. Can you think of another famous Serb? I can't. Right? So he's probably the most famous Serbian ever. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, right. And I don't know if you know Majid Nawaz of LBC. Right, this bitch has been fired, sacked. Get the fuck out of here. Right, you leave with immediate effect. You're fired. Security see you out the building. And I said about motherfucking time too. Because you know when Majid first come onto LBC, yeah, because I was in my yard. I can remember I was in my yard. I was working. I was in my yard, right? Not my backyard, my carpentry yard, right? So I was in there, right, and I'm working away, and all of a sudden, I've heard them introduce a new presenter on LBC, and it's an Asian guy. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I'm really happy, right? So I'm sure I phoned him and I spoke to him on his first show. Do you know what I mean? So this, you know, because you know at that stage they never had any black or Asian presenters, right? So I was really pleased that he was on there, right? And I think I was a really early caller speaking to him. Do you know what I mean? On that day, on the same day when he started. Do you know what I mean? And I expressed that to him that I was really happy to see him, you know, an Asian guy on Asian Muslim, right, on LBC, right. And then he started speaking. And oh my god, seriously, this guy, he's something else. Do you know what I mean? You know, if I say yeah, that this guy does not like Muslims, right? He doesn't like Muslims. Right? He just doesn't like Muslims. Do you know what I mean? You know, I don't know what his problem is. Right? But the way how he come on, right, and he was speaking about people who look like himself was completely wrong. Do you know what I mean? You know, you don't do that, right? You know, I mean, in you know, as black people, we just call them people. We say to people that they're the coonberries dancing, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're literally dancing for the white man, and that is what Majid was always doing. Do you know what I mean? You know, just week in, week out. Do you know what I mean? You know, this guy. You know, if you listen to him speaking about COVID. Right, you know, you just think to yourself, are you an anti-vaxxer? But he's been vaccinated. Him himself has been vaccinated, right? But you say, because the way you're speaking about it, right? You know, he's everything, right? He's the things what he's saying, right? Was basically QAnon. I don't know if you know what QAnon is, but that's what he was saying. Basically, it's QAnon, right? And then you know, Antifa, right? The 6th of January, you know, he's pushing that as well. It was Antifa the 6th of January. Think to yourself, serious. But then you guys know, because remember I was there, and see what happened. I can tell you exactly what happened on the 6th of January, because you know we Antifa troublemakers went up there, right, to start the violence, and then left as Trump supporters to carry it on. But what happened, right, is the police segregated us. And they took us in one of those big police bus things. You know, there's a few of them. There's like about 6 of them police bus things, all full up with all Antifa. You know, we was all wearing like black and red, and a lot of red, yellow, and green. Right, we was all wearing black face masks and all these type of things. Right, and they took us. So the police took us. They took us to McDonald's and then dropped us all home individually. That's what happened, right? But Majid, the big lie, right, about the American election. Majid Nawaz was pushing the big lie over here. He's pushing, and you think to yourself, you know, because the people who they're dealing with, right, when you're pushing these type of things, the people who they're dealing with, right, they're dealing with, right, people who are very, very easily influenced. Right, that's what they're dealing with. Right, and you know, the simpletons. That's what they're dealing with, and Majid was over here pushing the big lie and all these type of things, right? And then you know, because remember he tried to be a Liberal MP, right, from the Liberal Democrats over here, right? But really, right, he is a Trump supporting far right Muslim. Right, that's what he is. And when I say far right Muslim, I don't mean far right as in radical. I mean far right as in like a supporter of people like the Proud Boys. That's who he is. Right. So the politicians are just about to give themselves a £2,000 a year pay rise. Well, not to give themselves, because they've got some committee who gives them the pay rises. But you might as well say, well, the pay rise, that committee must be their parents who give them, because they always seem to say, oh no, these guys, they need more money. Right, look at the time. I'm 26 minutes already, and I haven't even spoken about Brexit yet. So politicians give themselves a rise, and they say thank you very much. All right. Oh, an extra £2,000 a year, as if they needed any more money. Right, with the nigh on £500,000 that they're in control of. Right. Now I was watching Parliament the other day, right, and I don't even know which politician this was, right, but all I can tell you, right, is that if you look around Parliament, right, at the Conservatives, look for the guy, right, who looks like a beetroot, right, or looks like his head is a cherry, right, because this man's face, right, when I tell you, right, this man, right, when he's talking about, oh, the government's trade deal with India, right, means that they're going to relax the visa system with India. Well, and if you listen to it, yeah, you're going to hear loads of people laughing. There's right, loads of people in the House of Parliament cracking up with laughter, because you know why? Because the Brexiters, right? I don't know if they realise. They don't. I don't think they've got the brain power to realise, right, that Brexit means, right, because when you're doing deals with people like India, right, that means, right, swapping Europeans for Indians, which I don't mind. Listen, just sign me up, right, for some of that biryani, right, and some of that authentic naan bread. Sign me up for some of them meat curries. Sign my ass up for that. So I don't mind, right? But I'm quite sure the Brexiters are not going to be too happy with that scenario, right? I'm going to be happy at all with that scenario. So this guy. This guy was in the House of Parliament speaking about it the other day, right? You know, and that's what he basically said, right? That we're going to swap, right, EU citizens for citizens from India, and he said that's not what the people who voted for Brexit are. They didn't want that. But they were too stupid to realise that's what they were signing up for. Just like they were too stupid to realise that they're signing themselves up for the only people to be able to do non-skilled work. The stupidity of you Brexiters is something else, right? You know, because you people are ridiculously stupid, right? Just ridiculously stupid. You didn't realise that was going to happen. How foolish is that? Seriously, right? And the EU has branded Liz Truss unhelpful, and they're saying, you know what? It's unsurprising what she's saying about she's ready to trigger Article 16. And I said, well, you know what, Liz? Go ahead, go on, Liz. Make our day, trigger it, and see what happens to you. Right? Go and trigger that, right? Because you know. I don't think, just for somehow, right, I don't think these people have realised, right, that they have absolutely no power. Nothing. Right, they've got not one little piece of power. Right. You know, I just think to yourself, so when the EU turned around and said to you, you know what? You're out of Horizon. We're not allowing you back in. Didn't that say to them, well, oh shit. well, you know, we better stop this hardline nonsense rubbish that we're talking about and think of a way to working with the EU better, right, than trying to go up against them as if to say we've got the same size economy as the EU. Right? So, you know, but there's no one, right, of these government or these Brexiters are thinking, I don't know. I just think these people are really stupid, right? Just, you know, when France right, says to your interior minister, you are banned from a meeting, and you think that you still think, right, that you can go to the EU and say, well, we could do. You want to mind that they start cut you off completely from Europe. That's what you want to mind. They just don't say, you know what, we're cutting you completely off. No goods will come from France. You're nothing from Rotterdam. Nothing. Not going to come over. Nothing's going to come over to you. Right? You eat turnips. That's what grows over here. Turnips, parsnips, apples, onions, potatoes, pears, grapes. Right? But you know, already the. Listen, you know what? I've gone on for. This is 31 minutes now. It's gone on far too long. This is far too much of a rant, right? So I've got to go. But anyway, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.